Washington tried to silence Elon, but his one sentence changed everything. It was supposed to be just another congressional hearing, a billionaire summoned, a senator ready to grill. Headlines were already written: Elon Musk faces questions on AI militarization. But no one predicted what happened next. When Senator Margaret Lee accused Musk of secretly turning his AI networks into military weapons, the room tensed. Elon didn't flinch. He didn't argue. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small USB. "You want context," he said. What played on the screen silenced the entire chamber, a shaky phone video from Ukraine. A child, maybe 11, crying but smiling, thanking Starlink for helping her family survive a bombing. The translation read, "We lived because we could call for help." In 90 seconds, the debate about algorithms turned into a story about lives. One that no regulation, no accusation, no rhetoric could deny. It wasn't policy, it was survival. And in that moment, even Elon's biggest critics sat still. So now the question isn't about AI. It's about us. Will we weaponize fear, or finally understand what tech was always meant to do? It began like many others: high ceilings, stiff chairs, and a panel of lawmakers with rehearsed questions. The setting, the Hart Senate Office Building Room 216, famously used for televised hearings. The room was full. Press in the back, aides at the flanks, cameras everywhere. And in the center of it all, Elon Musk sat at the witness table in his usual understated blazer, a crisp black shirt buttoned all the way up, no tie. Senator Margaret Lee, chair of the Senate Subcommittee on AI Oversight, was not interested in small talk. Her opening statement pulled no punches. "Mr. Musk, your companies have contributed to undeniable advancements in civilian technology. But recent reports indicate that Starlink and neural net AI may have been co-opted, perhaps willingly, into military operations without appropriate civilian oversight. Are you developing AI that can kill without conscience?" A murmur ran through the gallery. Elon didn't blink. He rested both hands calmly on the table, fingers interlaced, as if the weight of the question needed more silence than speed. "I'm here to provide clarity, Senator," he finally said. "But first, let's be clear, technology doesn't choose its user. People do." Senator Lee wasn't impressed. She turned to the screen behind her. "Let me show you something." A video began playing drone footage over a desert zone, targets marked in red, a mechanical voice counting down, then impact, dust fire. The clip ended with a watermark, source anonymous, defense leak. This was traced to an autonomous unit using protocols eerily similar to what your open-source AI demonstrated last year. You can deny or you can explain. For the first time, Elon looked slightly annoyed, not shaken, but not indifferent either. "Senator," he replied, "may I show you something in return?" Without waiting for permission, he reached into the inside pocket of his blazer, pulled out a small black USB drive, and handed it to a staffer. "Play it." The room dimmed again. A shaky handheld video appeared on screen, filmed in portrait mode. The voice of a young girl subtitled, "My name is Anya. I am 11. We live in Kharkiv. There was bombing and my mother couldn't get a signal. But our neighbor had Starlink. We called for help. Soldiers came and took us to shelter. I'm okay, thank you." No music, no editing, just raw footage and gratitude. When the lights returned, no one spoke. "That's what Starlink is doing," Elon said, his voice level. "You want to talk about military misuse, fine, but don't erase the lives saved in the meantime." Senator Lee opened her mouth, then closed it again. "The protocols you referenced," Elon continued, "are open source. Anyone can copy them, manipulate them. But this," he gestured toward the screen, "this is real. That little girl is real, and she's alive because her mother could call for help." Reporters scribbled furiously. One aide wiped away a tear. The room was split not along party lines, but between those still clinging to the accusation and those quietly re-evaluating everything. Another senator, a moderate from Maine, leaned forward. "Mr. Musk, are you saying that humanitarian applications outweigh the risk of militarization?" "No," Elon replied. "I'm saying it's not either or. We build with caution, yes, but we don't bury utility because someone might abuse it. Otherwise we'd have no fire, no internet, no planes, and no penicillin. Then he added, Starlink isn't just a network, it's infrastructure for freedom. In places where governments fail or collapse, people still need to speak, organize, ask for help. We gave them a way to do that. Senator Lee's face remained unreadable, but a few legislators across the room nodded slowly. Another screen flickered to life, this time initiated by Elon himself. It showed a split map, one side lit in blackout darkness, the other side dotted with Starlink nodes, illuminating refugee camps, hospitals, and schools. Each point flickered with names and timestamps of emergency transmissions. Elon didn't say a word. The data spoke for itself. These aren't abstractions, he finally said. These are coordinates of hope. Whispers turned to murmurs. Headlines were already being drafted. That day, Elon Musk didn't prove innocence. He proved impact. And outside the chamber, social media exploded. She called for help, trended within the hour. The hours following the hearing didn't unfold like any standard news cycle. Instead of political pundits dominating the narrative, it was teachers, aid workers, and military families who flooded the digital landscape with testimonies. Threads on Reddit's RR Politics and RR Technology ballooned with thousands of comments. TikTok videos showed veterans quietly nodding as the Kharkiv video played. Instagram stories featured side-by-side comparisons, weaponized drones versus refugee shelters beaming with Starlink-powered light. But one post stood out. A school teacher from rural Pennsylvania shared a picture of her classroom's old whiteboard with the sentence, "If a tool can save a child's life, then it's more than a tool." The caption read, "Today, I showed my class what technology looks like when used for good." That post went viral in under 2 hours. Back in Washington the following morning, a surprising name joined the conversation: Congressman Julian Maris, a centrist Democrat known for his neutrality. He tweeted, "We need to stop acting like every innovation is a grenade waiting to explode. Sometimes it's a life raft." While political reactions diverged, the human ones didn't. A trending hashtag emerged: Signals of Hope. It wasn't engineered by Elon's PR team. It was organic, born out of the visceral response of people seeing hope rather than fear in that 38-second video. Inside the Musk compound in Austin, Texas, a decision was being made. Elon's communications advisor, Naomi Perez, pushed forward a plan to declassify more data from Starlink's humanitarian uses. Elon approved without hesitation. Within 24 hours, an interactive map was launched, showing anonymized Starlink pings during conflicts, earthquakes, and communication blackouts. Users could click on a dot and read real-time anonymized transcripts, pleas for rescue supply coordination calls between separated families. The map exploded in traffic. News anchors covering the data broke from their scripts, visibly affected. One CNN anchor paused mid-broadcast. "I have never cried reading Wi-Fi logs, but today I did." Amid this emotional storm, opposition sharpened. Senator Lee appeared on Freedomcast with anchor Clayton Rudd, doubling down. "This isn't about a girl in Ukraine, it's about systems we don't regulate. Mr. Musk believes he's above accountability." The comments set off a new round of online fury. But this time, a wave of educators, first responders, and aid workers began posting under shots accountable hope. "Yes, we must regulate, but don't kill the light while you're fixing the wires." That night, Elon appeared unexpectedly on a live stream, hosted by independent journalist Lena Vaughn. He looked tired but focused. Her opening question was blunt. "Do you regret showing the Anya video?" Elon took a breath, then replied, "No. I regret not showing it sooner." He elaborated, "We keep pretending tech is neutral. It's not. It reflects its builders and its users. If I have a choice between allowing Starlink to be imperfectly good or not at all, I choose the former every time." A few hours after that interview, a new headline broke: "Refugee camp in Syria, saved by Starlink-facilitated medical drone drop." The article showed live video of doctors receiving instructions from physicians abroad through Starlink uplinks. Lives were saved. Again. Senator Lee tried to counter with another press statement, but even her party's base had begun to fracture. An editorial in The Atlantic posed the question, when a billionaire does what governments won't, are we critics or beneficiaries? Meanwhile, the next hearing loomed. Whispers circulated that Musk would be called again, this time not as a witness, but as a consultant to propose a humanitarian tech standards act. It was unprecedented. Back on Capitol Hill, aides passed around excerpts from constituent letters. One from a retired school nurse in Idaho read, "I've spent years patching kids up, knowing full well their wounds weren't from playgrounds, but from poverty. If Mr. Musk can patch communications the way we patch scraped knees, let him. Just make sure no one takes that away next time." And so the tone began to shift. Not just for Musk, but for how technology was framed in national policy. The human cost was no longer just collateral, it was core. By week's end, an unexpected tweet arrived, from Elon himself. For every person who ever thought they were just a dot on a map, you're not. You're the signal, and we're listening. What began as an emotional flashpoint soon evolved into a multi-layered national conversation. The lines between technology accountability and empathy blurred across cable news, academic panels, and kitchen tables. Starlink wasn't just a satellite network anymore. It had become a symbol both praised and scrutinized. Major networks hosted nightly segments. The ethics of AI infrastructure. Should private tech lead? Where public systems fail? Even traditionally, apolitical figures joined the fray. Oprah Winfrey tweeted a rare political comment. Sometimes the most disruptive innovation isn't in what we build, but who it saves. Elon Musk himself remained unusually silent. His Twitter, normally a stream of sharp quips and space memes, slowed to a trickle. Naomi Perez, his advisor, said in a private interview, "He's listening more than talking right now. That's rare for him, but this is a rare moment." Meanwhile, tech CEOs were split. Some criticized Musk for weaponizing sympathy. Others began sharing their own impact stories. Jack Ma's team posted about Alibaba's earthquake alert system. Satya Nadella wrote an op-ed in Wired, supporting humanitarian first metrics for AI deployment. In response to growing public pressure, the Senate Committee on Technology Policy announced an emergency bipartisan roundtable. This time, Elon wouldn't be summoned, he was invited. For the first time in recent history, a civilian technologist would shape early drafts of legislative AI guidelines. But not everyone welcomed the shift. A coordinated campaign emerged, funded by a political think tank known as the Frontier Coalition. They released targeted ads featuring dramatic footage of blacked-out cities, overlaid with ominous music and a narrator saying, "One man, one system, what happens when it fails?" The backlash grew, but so did the response. Volunteers in remote areas began posting videos under the hashtag Starlink Saved Us. One from a nurse in an Alaskan outpost showed a baby being airlifted during a blizzard because they could call for help via Starlink. "Not every hero wears capes," she said. "Some orbit Earth." It was no longer about Elon Musk. It was about what kind of world people wanted to build. Educators, parents, emergency responders, and even clergy joined the chorus. A pastor in Georgia preached a Sunday sermon titled "Connectivity and Compassion, Drawing Parallels Between Biblical Parables and Modern Communication Tools." The most unexpected development came from an MIT ethics professor, Dr. Leon DeMarco, who published an open letter titled "The Musk Doctrine: Moral Tech in an Immoral World." In it, she argued, to demand perfection from humanitarian tech is to deny its necessity. Let us improve it, not erase it. That letter was signed by over 800 academic professionals within a week. On Reddit, users began compiling Starlink stories, first-hand accounts from war zones, disaster relief efforts, and educational projects in disconnected communities. The subreddit grew from 3,000 to over 400,000 members in 10 days. One user posting anonymously wrote, "My brother died in a no-signal zone in 2014. Today the same village has internet because of Starlink. It won't bring him back, but it might save another family. That's enough for me." Amidst all of this, the Humanitarian Tech Standards Act once a theoretical proposal was officially placed on the Senate docket. Its preamble credited civilian efforts and technological responsiveness during gaps in governmental systems. Senator Margaret Lee surprisingly co-sponsored the draft. In her speech on the Senate floor, she stated, "I was skeptical of Mr. Musk, not because of what he built, but because of how little we understood it. Today I understand better." By then, polls showed a staggering shift. 78% of Americans now believe private tech firms should be partners in disaster response infrastructure. The movement wasn't without its casualties. Elon's companies saw stock volatility. Lawsuits emerged, some frivolous, others serious, but none of that stemmed the tide. And in a quiet moment with no cameras and no press, Elon Musk visited a pediatric hospital in Poland, one of the first institutions supported by Starlink during the early days of the Ukraine war. He stayed 2 hours, talked to children, no posts, no speech. A nurse later shared he didn't talk much, but he listened. That meant more than anything. The announcement of the emergency Senate roundtable shook the Washington circuit. It wasn't just rare, it was almost mythical for a private citizen to be asked to co-author federal tech regulation. The fact that it was Elon Musk, a polarizing figure, who inspired admiration and skepticism in equal measure, only added fuel to the discourse. On the morning of the hearing, Capitol Hill buzzed. Journalists crowded the marble steps, murmurs passed between interns, and security tripled. Naomi Perez walked ahead of Elon, clipboard in hand, reading aloud the final schedule. Elon, unusually quiet, carried nothing but a slim folder and a clear mind. Inside the chamber, a diverse panel had assembled lawmakers from both sides of the aisle, AI experts, defense consultants, ethics professors, and even 2 first responders from recent Starlink-affected emergencies. Each seat was filled with someone whose life or judgment had been touched by the current debate. Senator Tobias Wren, an independent known for bridging divides, opened the session. This hearing isn't about praising or prosecuting Elon Musk. It's about answering a simple question: what role should rapid tech play when lives are at stake? The format was different. No grandstanding, no accusatory tones. Each participant had 7 minutes to share. Elon listened intently as a fire chief from Maui described coordinating evacuation efforts through Starlink. A Syrian aid worker described mapping refugee paths via Starlink GPS overlays. Then it was Elon's turn. He stood not behind the speaker podium, but next to a digital projection of a world map glowing with points of emergency connectivity. "I didn't build Starlink to play hero," he began. "I built it because I was once that kid who needed to feel like he wasn't isolated." He shared his teenage years, bullied and often alone, finding solace in early computer networks. Connectivity isn't luxury, it's oxygen. And if someone cuts that off, even in a war zone or disaster, we have failed humanity. The room was still. "I'm not asking for exemption," he continued. "I'm asking for understanding. To design rules that evolve with the tools we build. Not to cage them out of fear, but to shape them with foresight." After he sat, it wasn't applause that followed, but silence. Respectful, contemplative silence. Following the hearing, something unprecedented happened. The Senate proposed a temporary framework, drafted by Musk and revised by bipartisan staffers, to guide AI humanitarian tools. It would be debated next quarter, but already received pre-endorsements from both major parties. Outside, a group of protesters held up signs. Some praised Musk, others warned against private influence. One sign stood out: "Regulate, don't erase." Meanwhile, social media took a new turn. Instead of focusing solely on Elon's persona, the conversation shifted to larger questions. What kind of tech do we want when the next blackout hits? Who should hold the emergency keys when traditional systems fail? In classrooms, students debated the role of empathy in innovation. In churches, sermons blended gospel with questions of digital salvation. Everywhere the story reverberated. And Elon. That night he flew back to Texas. No press conference, no tweet storm, just a message to his team. Silence isn't absence, it's intention. Let's build the next update. The days following the Senate roundtable were marked by an unusual quiet in Washington, but not online. Across digital spaces, one phrase from Elon's testimony became a rallying cry: "Connectivity is oxygen." The quote was spray-painted on high school lockers, printed on protest banners, and cited in a UN youth conference. It echoed through both rebellion and reverence. In the tech world, a subtle shift was underway. Rival companies, once silent observers, began repositioning their own products as mission-compatible. Google re-released data on its Loon project, while Amazon quietly expanded satellite trials under Project Kuiper. The race for moral tech had begun. At the same time, Musk's email inbox flooded with testimonies. Naomi filtered through thousands, but one stood out: a message from an 11-year-old girl in Nigeria. "Dear Mr. Elon, I use Starlink to learn math from YouTube. We don't have school because of floods. I want to be an engineer. Thank you for making the sky talk to us." Elon printed the email and pinned it on the conference room wall. Beneath it, he wrote, "Why we build." While Musk focused on implementation, critics circled. Senator Avery Holt, a conservative hardliner, accused Elon of manipulating humanitarian optics to push deregulation. "Let's not pretend this is charity," she thundered on a national debate. "This is a power grab dressed in empathy." Her words struck a chord with some. Think tanks launched op-eds with titles like "The Tyranny of Billionaire Morality" and "Who Watches the Satellite Watchers?" But the response was swift and cutting. A global coalition of NGOs signed a public letter urging governments to partner, not punish, with private tech pioneers. The letter included statistics in 2024 alone. Starlink-enabled relief operations had cut response time by 47% in disaster zones. Then came the breaking point. A Category 5 hurricane. Isadora slammed into the eastern seaboard. Communications went dark. Roads vanished underwater. Local emergency systems crumbled. But within 4 hours, Starlink terminals brought 19 towns back online. Drone footage showed first responders navigating submerged neighborhoods, with Starlink uplinks guiding them. A viral image captured a child on a rooftop holding a cardboard sign, "We're alive thanks to the stars." The media firestorm reignited, but this time, the narrative was different. CNN led with "When governments fell silent, satellites spoke." Even Fox News aired an hour-long segment titled "Unlikely Lifeline: How Musk's Network Prevented Mass Casualties." Public opinion tipped. Polls revealed 82% of Americans supported expanding Starlink for emergency infrastructure. Editorials demanded bipartisan support for the pending legislation. In response, Elon delivered a rare televised statement, not from a studio, but from a rural command center in Georgia, still recovering from the storm. He stood in front of a mobile Starlink terminal. "This isn't about me. It's about designing systems that don't collapse when it matters most. Let's make this permanent." Back in D.C., the revised Humanitarian Tech Standards Act gained momentum. 4 new senators signed on. Hearings were fast-tracked. A vote was imminent. And as the debate crested, another surprise emerged. NASA released a joint paper co-authored by SpaceX and the European Space Agency, outlining how emergency satellite constellations could be harmonized globally. It was titled, "The Next Layer: Humanity's Grid in the Sky." One senator whispered, "This isn't just tech policy anymore. This is infrastructure for the human condition." The morning of the congressional vote arrived not with thunder, but with a strange quiet. Washington, D.C. felt suspended, as if waiting for something larger than legislation. A queue of reporters extended around the Capitol steps, satellite vans, humming on every curb. Inside the rotunda, aides murmured updates, while senators reviewed their final notes. It was decision time. Would the Humanitarian Tech Standards Act pass into law, enshrining Elon Musk's unorthodox innovation into national infrastructure? The Senate floor was solemn. No grandstanding, no applause. The vote proceeded electronically, the chamber filled with the soft beeps of confirmation. Screens lit up red and green as names flashed across the chamber. When the final count registered, 71 in favor, 27 opposed, 2 abstentions, a hushed exhale swept the room. the act had passed. Elon Musk was not present in the chamber. Instead, he sat alone in his private observatory outside Austin, Texas, staring at the sky through a massive glass dome. As the confirmation came in via Naomi's message, "It's done," he didn't cheer, he just whispered, "Now we really begin." Back in the Capitol, reactions varied. Supporters celebrated the law's bipartisan victory and the dawn of a new framework for ethical tech. Critics decried it as the beginning of oligarchic oversight, but few could ignore the ripple effects already in motion. Within 48 hours, France, Japan, and Brazil introduced their own versions of the humanitarian tech doctrine modeled on the U.S. framework. The United Nations fast-tracked a session on global digital sovereignty. It became clear this wasn't just America's story anymore. Meanwhile, schools across America began piloting connectivity equity programs funded by new federal grants. Every child in districts impacted by natural disasters would receive priority access to Starlink terminals. In South Dakota, a teacher held up the terminal in her 5th grade class and said, "This isn't just internet, it's a lifeline." Elon, typically allergic to PR campaigns, allowed a short documentary crew to follow him during one of his rare public appearances at a border town hospital. The footage captured him reconfiguring a terminal, speaking softly with volunteers, and laughing when a child asked if satellites could play music. "They could," he smiled, "but you'd need a really patient DJ." The documentary aired under the title Beyond Bandwidth, the quiet tech that spoke when others couldn't. It won a Peabody within 3 months. Despite growing acclaim, a counter-narrative began to grow in darker corners of the internet. Forums claimed the Humanitarian Tech Standards Act was a covert mechanism for mass surveillance. Conspiracy videos claimed Elon's Starlink fleet could see through roofs or control weather patterns. Elon responded with a rare public joke. "If Starlink could control the weather, I wouldn't have had to reschedule 3 rocket launches this week." But misinformation had weight. And with every viral myth, another question loomed. Could public trust in humanitarian tech survive the digital age? It was then that a breach occurred. Not in Elon's systems, but in perception. A former contractor leaked internal testing documents from a defense project tangentially connected to Starlink infrastructure. Although Musk had publicly denied any military overlap, the papers showed experimental signal tracking trials conducted in 2021. The media erupted. Congressional hearings reopened. Elon was summoned once again, not as a guest, but under subpoena. During the session, Senator Avery Holt pounced. "You told us Starlink was humanitarian first. Were you lying, or were you just unaware of your own infrastructure's usage?" Elon remained composed. Those trials occurred before the humanitarian framework was formalized. "I've since shut down all dual-use protocols that blur civilian boundaries. But let's be honest, no technology is born pure. It's shaped by the systems we build around it." The session ran for 5 hours. In the end, Elon wasn't charged with misconduct. But the narrative had changed again. Musk's mythos of the lone innovator was now complicated human flawed layered. Naomi, in a private conversation, said, "You've built systems that outpace regulation. That's a blessing and a curse. People aren't afraid of your tools, Elon. They're afraid of your momentum." Despite the storm, implementation of the act continued. Musk returned to SpaceX and Tesla, less as a tech messiah, and more as a man watching his legacy take on a life of its own. A year later, the National Museum of American History opened a new exhibit, Signals of Hope: How Satellite Tech Reshaped the Human Response. The centerpiece was a display of a worn-out Starlink terminal used during Hurricane Isadora next to a tablet looping the viral rooftop footage of the child holding the sign. Near the exit, a small touchscreen invited visitors to write a message to future technologists. One entry stood out: "Build what speaks for those unheard. And never forget, silence isn't absence. It's a chance to listen." Elon never commented on the exhibit, but on the anniversary of the act's passage, he posted a single tweet. "One signal can carry more than data. It can carry dignity. No hashtags, no follow-up, just signal and silence." If this story sparked something in you, if you believe tech should serve people, not just profit, subscribe for more. Share your thoughts in the comments. Should humanitarian tech be regulated or trusted? Hit the like button if you believe dignity should never be disconnected. Your voice, just like a signal, can reach farther than you think.